What's up, guys? Finally, I'm ready to do the review of NASCAR Heat 2. I've spent the last 2 weeks playing the game as much as I could. I have a hectic work schedule and a lot of things going on, so it took a little longer than I'd like it to, but I'm ready to talk about the game. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The first thing I want to say is that if I had to describe this game as a package, I would say that it's a mixed bag. Like anything else, there's positives and negatives. And some of the negatives in this game are pretty bad, and I have to talk about it. But there are also some pretty good things in the game, which I will also talk about. And I'm going to do something a little different, which is I'm going to tell you right off the bat my rating for the game. And the reason I want to do that is because I don't want people to feel like if I'm talking about the negatives and criticizing the game that I think it's a terrible game. I don't think that at all. Overall, I do think the game is decent. Okay, it's a decent game. There is fun to be had in this game. Okay, but it like I said before, it's a mixed bag and it does come with issues. My rating for this game is 7 out of 10. Now, for me, a 7 out of 10 is a good game. It's not going to blow you away. It's not spectacular. It's not something that I say you got to go out and buy. A 7 out of 10 is a decent game that you can find enjoyment in it, but it also has its flaws. Almost every aspect of this game has positives and negatives. There's nothing in this game that's perfect, and that's fine. That's expected. And you could say that about any game, really. So I'm going to talk about the good stuff and the bad stuff, and hopefully, you can get a good idea of what I think of the game. I'm pretty sure most of you guys either have the game already, or you already have your mind made up on what this game is. You've seen other reviews, things like that. Some people don't like this game. Some people like it. It's a little bit all over the place. I think the general consensus is that it is an improvement, but the bar was set so low that doesn't necessarily make this a great game, which it doesn't. But I actually did find some really good stuff in this game. So I'll talk about that, and I'm also going to get into the issues. This game has a lot of issues, right? And I expected a lot of these issues, but there are some issues that I did not really expect. So I wrote down a couple of things, so I'll look over from time to time, and of course I'll keep the video low budget, low quality, just like you guys are used to by now. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the graphics. The game looks better than I thought it would, graphically. It's not mind-blowing. It doesn't compete with other race titles, but on its own, it's not a bad-looking game. There are actually some things in the game that look surprisingly good. Dare I say borderline impressive. And the things I'm talking about are, one, the rendering of the game is not bad, but there are a couple of tracks in the game that I played that actually impressed me. New Hampshire, Martinsville, a couple of other tracks, some of the road courses. It gives you this late afternoon, dusk kind of sunset type of feel to it. It's not real. It's still daytime, but it's like late in the summer, late daylight. It's this orangey, just slight orange tint to the lighting, and it really works well. In my opinion, it looks really good, and it does really stand out compared to last year. The lighting, the reflections, and some of the shadows, those type of details are improved. The issue I have with the graphics has to do with more technical stuff. The aliasing is still terrible. It was bad last year. It's bad this year. All these jagged white edges on everything. The fences, the walls, everything in this game. The white hash marks in the track, they all have jagged edges. And they are an eyesore. There's also screen tearing. Alright? For those of you who don't know, that's, certain aspects of the screen, and it'll look like two completely different images, and you'll actually see a line dividing those two things. So there's screen tearing. The aliasing is horrendous. And one other thing, and this really has to do with detail. I race purely in cockpit mode, and the first thing I noticed right off the bat is these gauges don't light up. And anyone who knows anything about NASCAR and has seen races, these gauges light up even in broad daylight. They are always brightly lit. It's an issue for me. If you race in cockpit mode, it's really noticeable. And it's just attention to detail that's lacking there. I don't know how you release the game and not notice that these gauges don't light up. The only gauges that are brightly lit at all times are the digital dashes for the Cup cars. But the trucks and the Xfinity, no go. And it's worse at night. The night races, you could barely see the gauges at all. So that is just, it's another one of those other oversights that, they bother me. It's not game breaking. There are issues, and then there are game breaking issues, which I will also talk about. But in terms of graphics, the game overall looks better, but it would look so much better if the aliasing, the screen tearing, these jagged sharp edges could be smoothed out. It would really improve the overall look of the game. However, overall it looks pretty decent to me. And it's quite adequate for a NASCAR game, in my opinion. Would I like it to look better? Of course. I want HDR, 4K, I want all the bells and whistles, but that's not where we are. And I like to try to keep myself grounded and keep my expectations realistic, right? So for what it is, it looks okay. I really don't have big issues with the graphics other than what I just talked about. Moving on to sound. Does the game sound improved? I don't really know. It seems slightly improved, but at times I don't know if I got to go back and play Evolution to really notice. I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me what you think. I didn't find it that much improved. Okay? If it's improved, it's by a little. But there is one issue with the sound, and I haven't seen anyone talk about it, but it is blaringly in your face. When you race around other cars at most tracks, especially for some reason, I noticed it more in going into turns 3 and coming out of turn 4, doesn't matter which track. It sounds like you're at an airport. It sounds like a 747 jumbo jet is throttling their engines to full blast like they were just cleared for takeoff on a runway. I can't be the only one who's noticed it, and it happens every time you go into the turn and come out of turn 4, and you're around other cars. When there's no other cars around you, it doesn't happen. So I guess it's the sound of all these cars together. It's supposed to sound, whatever it's supposed to sound like, it sounds like you're at an airport. It sounds like a jet engine throttling to full throttle and then throttling down when you come out the turn. So that is awful. And it sounds really canned, and it just throws you out of whatever immersion you're having at the moment. It takes you completely out because it's like, what the fuck is this? So that's an issue. I have to think it's a glitch. It needs to be addressed because I think sound is very important in these games, and they're just not doing it justice. So that's my big complaint about the sound. Online multiplayer, it works, and it works well. Last year's game worked well. You know, it does what it's supposed to do. You run, it's pretty smooth. I haven't noticed too much glitching. You know, if somebody has a bad connection, that's the only time you see some wonky stuff with other cars on the track that are floating or just popping up and all over the place. But that happens with any online game. Even iRacing, which is built for this, you'll see this, you know, occasionally. You'll see cars pop all over the place. It's just the connection. So other than that, really, they did a great job with it. It's improved from last year, you know. Now, but I have to. Oh my God. I knew there were no stats offline, but they did say there was online stat tracking. Am I right? Am I wrong? Technically, there are stats. Races and wins, and that's it. I was expecting something more thorough, a little more in-depth. If you brag about stat tracking, I expect to see more than that. But I'm not surprised. And I don't know what to say. Another thing is, I talked about this in an earlier video. And those of you who follow me, you know what I'm talking about. When I said, when you have stats online, it's very important that you don't give stats to people that run short races. Personally, I suggested you should have to run 50% races or longer in order to get stats. A lot of you guys did not like that, and you came back with 25%. And being the diplomat that I am, I'm okay with that. If they had it for 25% or longer races, I'd be happy with it. But I feel 100% validated. I told you guys that if you just let these guys have stats, it would water down the stats to the point where they're meaningless. And it doesn't reward people for putting in more time in the game. And if you look at the leaderboards, there are literally people with hundreds of wins. There's guys with 500 wins already. And this game's only been out for 2 weeks. 500 wins. Because all they do is run 2% races all fucking day. Then you go to the daily boards, you see people with 60, 70 wins. I don't get it. I told you guys that's now the stats are meaningless. Even though I think the stats were already half-assed because all they put were wins and rate total races. And one other stat I gotta say I like is the top speeds at each track, right? For the leaderboards. That's cool, but it's a half-assed job. I have the feeling these guys really have no clue what a proper statistical compilation means. There's a ton of stats that you can do that we used to have. I'm not going to talk any more about it, but I told you guys what would happen. There's no incentive for people to run long races. And you got a bunch of guys who I'm sure feel great when they see their names at the top of the leaderboards with hundreds of wins after 2 weeks. But it's meaningless. And there's no incentive. And I want to incentivize people to run longer races. And this is one of the issues I have with the online. And also the online is a mess. It's not 704's fault. Like I said, they did a good job. Everything works the way it's supposed to work. So kudos to them. They deserve credit for it. And the addition of AI is something I love. But again, the issues with online are 99% just fucking people. This is why I don't enjoy online racing. It's very rare where you get into a clean race with people who take it seriously. Everybody drives like a jerk off, swerving all over the track, dive bombing, crashing into people. I don't understand what people enjoy from that. I mean, I could see a couple of races just for fun doing stuff like that, but I can't spend all day doing that. And awarding people with wins for 2-3% races, and you look down the lobby, all you see are 2, 3, 5%, whatever it is. Very few races that are 25% or more. Very few. And another thing, you got the ability to fill out the field with AI, and you only see a couple people do it. Most of the lobby does not implement it. So my issues are things that we have no control over, which is people. And this is why I reiterate, like I always do, offline career mode will always be important. And these developers better understand that. You know, you can add stuff to online multiplayer, but if you don't incentivize people to run longer races, it's not going to be more enjoyable for people like me. It's just a bunch of idiots crashing into each other. I haven't been in one fucking clean race. It's just frustrating. You know, I told you guys, you can't reward people with fucking stats and wins for running short races. I would do away with it. I would, like I said, I would make it at least 25% you have to run. Also, every race has people that back out of the race after a couple of laps. I would penalize them. If you back out, the game should be able to know that you backed out, and you get a DNF. But see, a DNF don't matter because all they have for stats are wins. There's no average finish. There's no win percentage stats. So a DNF doesn't hurt you anyway. But if you had proper compilation with all kinds of stats, DNFs would actually matter. And people wouldn't back out of races. Well, they might just shut the console off and restart it. But if you want to waste your entire day shutting your console off and restarting it every time you fall back a few spots, that's, I don't care at that point. That's your business. But at the very least, I don't know. I literally almost get a migraine with issues like this because they're issues I knew were going to be a problem and things I've been warning about. I've been trying to convey these messages to the developers, and it falls on deaf ears and it bothers me. And I hope you guys realize, I mean, how watered down are these fucking stats? People with hundreds of wins after 2 fucking weeks, 70 wins a day, some of these guys average, because they're running 2% rate. It's just a fucking... I do not enjoy online multiplayer, but in all fairness to 704, I have to give them high marks for the way it works. It does what it's supposed to do. And like I said, it's not their fault. People are fucking idiots. They don't race seriously. They don't... to me, when I play a NASCAR game, I want to experience what it's like, what NASCAR's like. NASCAR isn't a fucking couple of lap sprint of guys crashing into each other. I like racing long races. I want to go through all the tribulations and the challenges that drivers face. And part of that is the long races, dealing with strategy. And that's when the game is most enjoyable to me. And the only way anybody like myself will enjoy online multiplayer, you have to know people that race with that you can trust. That's the only way. You can't just go into these lobbies at random and get an enjoyable experience. Every fucking race I've been in is a mess. So that's why I don't enjoy it. Doesn't give me the same, anywhere near the same level of enjoyment that I could get offline. So it is what it is. But I do give them high marks for the online multiplayer. It works. It does what it's supposed to do. And I have ideas to tweak it. I'll talk about that in the future. And, if they they have to do more to incentivize longer races, and it'll be better then, hopefully. So moving on from the online multiplayer, which I'm giving high marks to, okay, in spite of all that, I'm gonna get to the star of the show. Make no mistake, the AI in this game is fantastic. I love it. Yes, there are issues, which I will talk about. There are problems. But let me tell you, when everything works the way it's supposed to, it's the best racing I've ever had in any NASCAR game ever. And I'm dead serious about it. The problem is, this game is so inconsistent that you never know when a race is going to be challenging and immersive, and when it's just going to be a race for babies. And this was something that I was worried about before the release of the game, and I talked a lot about it, and my instincts, they never let me down. It's very, very rare where I just feel something and it turns out that I was wrong. And I had a feeling. I said, this fucking thing looks like it's going to be too easy. And people were like, it's not the final version. I've told you guys in the past as well that once you reach within a month and a half away from release, the game pretty much is what it is. This idea that in the last month that you're going to see a dramatically improved game from what you're seeing pre-release, I told you guys, that's not how it works. These guys spent an entire year on this game, and at the last month they're going to dramatically improve certain things. That's not going to happen. And you can see that here. The game is too fucking easy. And it should never be so easy when it's at the highest difficulty. I don't care what car you drive. Now, this is the inconsistency of the game. There are times where it is challenging. It seems to be a mix of what kind of car you have, because they rate them 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star. And when you have a 3-star car, usually you have a very challenging, immersive experience. And like I said, I actually have had some of the best racing I've ever had in any race game, NASCAR or otherwise. This is the best AI I've ever seen. And yes, there are flaws, but we need to talk about what is so good about this AI. Okay? And the AI, for the first time ever, has personality. They're challenging. Now, when I talk about how challenging the AI is, I'm not talking about the difficulty of the game overall, because there's a difference there, and there is an issue. But the AI themselves, they don't roll over. They fight you for every spot. They don't feel like they run on rails. You know, you're used to watching AI that looks like pre-programmed robots that run on a rail. And in this game, they run different lines. They do spread out more at the start, which is what I wanted. But they, like I said before, everything in this game is improved, but needs more improvement. And that needs improvement. They don't spread out enough. They still need to spread them out a little more. And there's still little clumps of cars that stay bunched together. All right? So in some races, like I said, it varies from race to race. And you just don't know what you're going to get till you're in the race. You think a race might be challenging. It turns out to be, way too easy. And then there's races that you come in and then it just turns out to be challenging. And you're halfway through the race and you're like, wait a minute. I can't get, I can't move beyond 25th or 20th, whatever it is. You see the game is really challenging. That's where this game shines. When the AI is doing what it does, then there's I didn't expect the rivalry system to be as good as it is. It's great. My only gripe with the rivalry system is that it's actually needs to be toned down just a notch, because when they are full-blown rivals, they don't let up. They will keep bashing into you. They wreck you. They'll push you down into the apron. They'll keep hammering you. If you're on the outside near the wall and they're under you, they'll push you up into the wall and you will lose spots. You will get angry. You will get frustrated, right? But at the end, when you calm down, you realize how much that adds to the experience, and it just needs to be toned down just a notch because it's a bit overdone, and you don't feel like the AI ever feels, in the rivalry system I'm talking about, you don't feel like they're ever satisfied. Like, I made my point. I hit you a couple of times, and I sent the message. And they should, after a couple of times, back off. They don't back off. They're relentless. They do not let up. And every time you're near them, if you run a 100% race, they're going to keep bashing into you. And I got to a point where I had more than half the entire field was a full-blown rival. And I made the mistake of, like a lot of people, I want to make these guys rivals. I want to see how this works. And, you know, when I got finished with the truck, with my first year in the truck, which I won a championship, and I won God knows how many races because it's too easy. But I made so many rivals that it was really hard at the end. They were just bashing the shit out of me everywhere I went. And it was overdone just a bit. But overall, it was a pleasant surprise to me. And it adds character. These guys feel like real race car drivers with personalities. I've never seen that before. Even when EA did the rivalries, it wasn't as good as this. Also, what I love is they don't keep pushing in your face who your rivals are. You can check before the races, right? But if you don't check them, and I don't, I like it. I go into these races, I don't know who's my rival, who isn't, and it makes me think about how I drive. Not just passing people, but how I pass them. I've never had a race game do that before. I'm used to, like everyone else, treating these games like what it is, a video game. So none of us really drive like we're in a real race car. And that is partly the reason why we move to the front so easily, because we just plow our way through. We don't care about the AI. If they're in the way, you just smash them out the way, push them, give them a nudge, whatever. You can't get away with that in real life. You just can't drive that way. And even if you don't get your ass kicked by your opponents, your own team will kick your ass because they'll get tired of fixing up cars that you treat like a tank. So, for the first time ever, I actually thought about how I was driving. So I'm thinking about more than just making passes. I'm thinking about strategizing. There were times where I was near a guy that I knew was a rival because he was hitting me repeatedly. And I had a chance to make a pass, but I wasn't sure that I could clear him cleanly. And you got to be careful, because if you don't clear them cleanly, they will dive bomb you. They'll smash into you from behind. And having to worry about that and strategize how you're making these passes, it adds a lot to the racing. And I can't tell you how good I thought the racing was. At times, when the racing was challenging. That's what's so unfortunate about this game, that the majority of the races are not challenging. They're too fucking easy. Another thing that is game breaking is the AI pit strategy, which I've been talking about since the Eutechnics era. Those of you who follow me, who've been watching my videos for years, and even those of you who remember me from the Eutechnics forums, right? I was known as 73 Duster in the forums. but I used to get into the same arguments with people. I used to talk about the same shit that I'm talking about today, which only validates what I talk about. And I'm telling you, the pit strategy has been horrendous, and it hasn't changed. The AI is only programmed to pit when they're almost out of fuel. They do not pit for tires. They don't give a fuck how many laps are on the tires, which, by the way, the tire model needs work. The tire wear isn't where it should be, okay? You do get some tire wear, but it's only towards the very end of a run. But the AI only pits when they're low on fuel, when they only have a few laps left on. So the stages, cautions come out, and they stay out. They don't pit, even though by strategy, they should know that if they don't pit, they don't have enough fuel to make it to the next stage. They're going to have to pit under green. And it's the same issues we've been having year after year that I keep telling you guys. These motherfuckers don't pit when they're supposed to. They stay out, and then you pit, and it don't matter if you're the last car. Just don't crash into anybody and wait, because they're going to fucking pit. And you'll be handed an easy victory, and you'll even lap most of the field. And that is a game-breaking issue. And they haven't done a damn thing about the AI pit strategy, and that's killing this game. The difficulty issue is killing this game. What's the point of having multiple choices with your difficulty if the game's too easy on the highest setting? Isn't the whole point of having easier settings for people that find the top setting too challenging? They can tune it down for themselves. What, you just killed that. Now somebody who finds this too easy at the highest setting, which is most people, they have nowhere where you're going to go with that. You're stuck with easy fucking races. And if you think winning races so easily is fun, then you don't know what fun is. That's not fun. It's not fun for even a casual gamer. Who are these casual gamers you are so desperately trying to appeal to? They don't want an easy race either. And that's hurting this game. It was an issue coming in. I was worried about it. And now my opinions keep getting validated. I want to be wrong. I don't want to be right. I don't want to say I told you so. I don't want to say I told you so that the stats were going to be a problem if you let everybody have wins and stats for any length of race online. Now it's watered down. People with hundreds of wins. I told you so. I don't want to say I told you so. I want to be wrong. These guys, I don't know where their focus is, but they make some weird, bad business decisions. And that's my main issue with this developer. For the most part, they did add a lot to the game. They deserve credit. Adding these extra series, it does add something to the game. But in all honesty, it wouldn't have added as much if instead of adding trucks and Xfinity, you would actually address the other issues like offline career stats. What's the point of, why would you want to keep playing the career mode season after season when there are no stats? You're not building a career. You don't feel like you're building a career. It's nice going through the trucks to Xfinity to Cup. It does add something, but not when it's, one, so easy, and two, there's no stats. You're not building a career. You feel like a passenger just walking by, just going on through for the experience. And once you get to Cup, you know, you might as well just go to single player, you know, offline and do single seasons. What's the point? Without stats, you guys don't fucking get it, man. There's no sense of accomplishment, no sense that you're building a real career. Nothing to look back on. No reason to continue to play season after season of career mode. Also, this game is still almost completely devoid of presentation. Another thing I keep talking about year after year after year. And the only thing they did, they added a victory lane celebration. It's better than nothing, but it feels tacked on. It doesn't feel really deep or immersive. It's just it just feels repetitive, tacked on. It really looks like something Eutechnics did. It's not that different from the Eutechnics games. You don't feel a personal attachment. You know, you create this character, and that's the only place you see him is in Victory Lane when you win a race. There's no point in really having this customizable character that you don't see anywhere else in the game. There's no presentation. After races, you'll get a text message here and there. You get these video messages from drivers. You know, I appreciate the attempt, but these guys are not actors. They're drivers, and it just looks like cameras were shoved in their face during, practice or, qualifying in the pits, whatever. And they just had a camera shoved, and they say, "Hey, man, here's your lines. Do me a favor, just read this off. We need this for the game." They're not actors. I don't blame them. It looks cringy at times, awkward. You could tell they're just like terrible actors. Keselowski and Logano, they're great race car drivers, but man, I haven't heard the word cringe as often as I've heard it in the past couple of months since Keselowski first popped up on their screen. And that word cringe has been used more often than I've ever heard it anywhere. Everybody uses that word because it adequately describes Keselowski and Logano and a lot of these racers. A little cringy. They're not actors. I'd rather see animated stuff that's rendered into the game like the old days. It's appreciated that they at least try to add that, and sometimes it kind of works where the guy tells you, "Hey, these guys are mad at you and you're building rivalries." There's potential there, right? Just like the rest of this game, it has a ton of potential, and that's what saves this game. Like I said, the racing can be awesome when it's challenging, which is a crapshoot. It's inconsistent. But when it's firing on all cylinders, the racing is the best I've ever experienced. And that's what keeps me invested in this game. That's what keeps me invested in this developer. In spite of everything, they have shown, progress. They have shown the ability to do certain things. I think their main issue isn't their ability, but their focus. A lot of the issues in this game are decision-based. Like the decision to make this game easier. It was a terrible decision. The minute they came out and said, some people thought last year's game was too hard and we wanted to make sure you could win right off the bat. I told you guys, the minute I heard that, I told you guys it raised a huge flag for me, a big red flag, and I told you guys I don't like the sound of that. No game developer dumbs their games down, especially race games. That's why you have lower settings for people that find the top setting too challenging. And it really hurts this game. The broken caution system. I mean, you had a year to fix a system that you knew was broken, and it's still broken. At best, you could say it's slightly better than last year. But you know what? Every time the caution comes out, everybody I know has the same thought of, or I should say the same feeling of surprise. You feel surprised that it worked. And that's the feeling you get when it works. Because more often than not, it doesn't work. And you'll have even really good races ruined because you got in a wreck or you spun out or something and the caution never comes out. And no matter how bad the wreck is, the caution won't come out. And you just had your whole race ruined. And that's not fun. I don't mind having a bad finish. But not like that. Not because, something like that happened. That's still broken. You had a year to fix it. And I can't help but think that your focus on things like split screen, which, by the way, I'm not using, never will use. I'm curious to know how many of you guys have actually used it. I hope you're getting enjoyment out of it. But personally, that was time and money, resources spent on things that I don't think really elevate this game. The things that this game desperately needs, like stats, like presentation, like fixing these other things, that's what needs attention. And not split screen. And these challenges, I never do them. I don't care about them. I know some of you guys like it, but you know what? I'd rather focus on the more important aspects of the game. So I know it sounds like I'm really bashing this game. I'm not. I'm being constructive. I'm telling you what the problems are. And, pretending that the problems aren't there, it's not going to make it go away. They have to be addressed. And I do think that this developer deserves credit. They are headed in the right direction for the most part. The game is an improvement. But, Technics, they really fucked up the entire industry of NASCAR game development because they managed to lower the bar so bad that it's been okay to release game after game without stats, without presentation, things that are just expected features of all games, especially sports games. And we just, year after year, we get these games and they're missing all of these basic features, right? There's nothing innovative here. This is all basics. And the reason it's okay for these guys to do it is because Technics got people used to, and I've been complaining about this since 2012, and I keep getting validated. The things I tell you guys, and you see it. How much better would this career mode be with stats? And I mean a full stat compilation. These guys don't seem to understand what here. I did a quick little thing here just to show you guys. This is just a minor, quick thing, right? It kind of reminds me of the old days of EA, the early EA games, and they would have, you got the current season. They would do also each year, season by season, career totals, right? So you'd have wins, top 5s, top 10s, average finish, DNFs, and then even win percentage, right? These are all stats that should be in the game. So you see current season, 6 wins, 8 top 5s, 14 top 10s, average finish 13th, 2 DNFs, and a win percentage of 12%, right, for this season. Then you have career totals, and then you'll have like 82 wins, top 5s 191, whatever. I'm reading this backwards, so I might fuck this up. But top 10s 306, average finish 9th, DNFs 26, win percentage for a career 18%. And then I would also cap the season at 25 years. Why would I do that? Because I think it's fucking ridiculous that you get 500 fucking wins for a career. It shouldn't run forever. And I want to keep it at 25 years, which is plenty of time. And when you pass people with wins, the game should let you know with presentation. You should have a trophy room for all your wins. If you break Richard Petty's record, the game should tell you. At the end of your career, if you're 25 years, I would make it so that, you get inducted to the Hall of Fame if your stats, are good enough. But that's just a quick thing, right? You'd have this on a page. You click a tab for stats, and everything's broken down year by year. This is just a quick version. It should be a lot more deeper than this. But just wanted you guys, we used to get this with the old EA games. I don't know what to say, man. So much of this game is a disappointment. But at the same time, it is a step forward. It is better than anything Technics did. And like I said, there is enjoyment in the game. But you have to be willing to accept the flaws. Also, I don't know what these guys are working on in terms of patches. Personally, I've never had a lot of faith in game developers with patches. Um, they'll fix little things here and there, but I've never seen real big things done with patches. So I don't know, what can they do? Can they improve the difficulty? If they could do that, I'd be more than happy to come back and revise my rating, right? Which 7 out of 10 is, it's a decent rating. But I'll raise it, 7.5 out of 10, whatever. It depends on what they fix, what they improve on the game through patches. I don't know what they're planning. There's a rumor that they're gonna add stats. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I have no faith that they're gonna do stats like I just showed you. It'll be something like it is online, which to me is a joke. Just wins and best laps at certain tracks for leaders and stuff like that, but very little stats, and it's just half-assed. That's not a full statistical compilation in the proper way it should be done, in the way it used to be done. So judging by that, if they add stats to offline, I'm not expecting much. So my confidence in the patches are kind of low. They're not going to fix the caution system. I can tell you that right off the bat. I'll be shocked. They had a year to fix it. And it's barely better than last year. So forget about the caution system. You got to accept this game with its flaws. And if you can do that, you will find enjoyment in the game. And like I said, there is enjoyment to be had in the game. But you don't know what you're going to get till you're in the race. And when it's at its best, when things are working pretty good, it's the best racing I've ever had offline against AI. I love the AI. And it's one of the most important aspects of a race game to get right. And they deserve so much credit for that. The AI has so much character and personality, and they race you hard. And by the way, the restrictor plate racing is night and day better. It is actually much more realistic. Last year's restrictor plate racing was an abomination. I actually enjoy it now. The physics and the handling are much better. Is it the most realistic? No, but you know what? Sometimes too much realism may not be the best thing. And the fact that you can handle these cars better, the twitchiness is gone. You can beat and bang with these guys a little bit and not, it won't ruin your race. Also, tracks I used to hate driving at, like Martinsville, New Hampshire, I actually enjoy. I look forward to racing there now. It makes the driving experience more enjoyable. So there is a lot to like about this game. And I think that the AI is so good, and the racing at times is so good, that it really helps elevate this game to what it is, in my opinion, which is a 7 out of 10. If it wasn't for the AI and this rivalry system, which is fantastic, gotta tone it down a notch. When they're full-blown rivals, it's overdone, right? They could just take it down a notch. I love it. For the first time ever, I actually have to think about how I drive. And that's added a lot. So when this thing works, man, it's really good. And I really hope you guys can overlook a lot of these issues and enjoy the moments that I'm currently enjoying. But the career mode, I don't see a lot of replay value because of there's no stats, there's no presentation, nothing the pre-race is pretty much gone. When you get to Cup, there is a pre-race. It's different. It's kind of a filmed thing. They show you the track, but that's not proper presentation. We have to get to a point where you have pre-race commentary. They should talk about how you raced the previous race, where you are in the point standings, where you start on this current race. Talk about other drivers in the field. During the warm-up lap, go through the field. That's proper pre-race presentation. And you feel involved when the game actually, when the commentating talks about you. They can talk about you by the number, right? Not by name. It's pretty hard to do that, but how then you'd feel an investment into the career mode. Post-race, don't just have a generic victory lane celebration. You should be allowed to do a burnout as long as you want, and then nothing happens until you drive back to the pits. Once you cross the commitment line in the pit road, then the game takes over and you see some presentation. I want to hear commentary talking about you, not just winning the race, but where you are in the point standings, where you have to race the next race, where, you know, if you had rivalries and incidents with people, talk about that. And even if you don't win, have presentation for that. We used to see things like confrontations back at the pits or at the garage. If you had a rival and you had, confrontation, there's so much you can do with presentation. And presentation is what ties everything together. And that's why this game is it's not a fleshed out game. It's not as bare bones as last year. They kind of added more bones, but it's not fleshed out. Not without stats, not without presentation. There's so much you can add to this. And so that's pretty much what I think about this game. It's a good game. And if you can overlook these flaws, which there's a lot of flaws, there is enjoyment. And at the end of the day, that's what these games are about. Is the racing fun? And let me tell you, there are moments where it's the best racing I've ever had. It's that good. I love the AI. I love the rivalry system. Those are the highlights for me. Also, one last thing, I can't believe I glossed over this. The car customization. It's limited, but I actually like it. I like the template system. The problem here isn't the system, it's that it's limited. If you can add more templates, right? It needs a lot more templates, so you could do all kinds of designs. The color palette needs to be expanded a bit. The wheels, it's nice that you could change them a little bit, right? But you should be able to color them any color you color the car, the same color palette. Have more templates, have more and desperately needs more sponsors. And how about bringing back some fake sponsors like we used to have with EA? I don't see anything wrong with that. I like some of these fake sponsors. And it also, you don't have to go out and sign all these sponsors to the game. You can add your own fake sponsors. I don't know how NASCAR would feel about it. They'd probably fuck it up and say you're not allowed to do it. But if every other driver has their sponsors, I don't see the problem with it. I'm a fantasy driver myself, right? Let me have some fake sponsors. So I don't have a problem. If they decided to expand on this car customization, I don't think I'd be mad about it. Of course, I would prefer a full-blown paint booth like Utechnics did. That's the one thing Utechnics did that was awesome. And that's it. So, if we can get a full-blown paint booth, I prefer that. But this is a very user-friendly system. I really liked it. And if you expand on the numbers too, also give us, the ability to put our name on these cars. Our names should be on the car. I mean, simple stuff, man. You got to get this done. But you can expand on this car customization and just add a lot more in terms of sponsors, numbers, and different paint schemes and templates. It's not bad. I actually enjoy it. I know a lot of people are not crazy about it, but I think the biggest complaint is that it's limited. And I admit it's limited, but I did appreciate they threw it in there, especially not expecting any paint booths at all. So I like it. And if they wanted to expand on it, I think I'd be okay with it. But I do want to add stuff to it. I'm not going to talk any more about it. That's pretty much my thoughts on the game. It's a decent game. It's a step up from anything Utechnics did. Definitely a step up from last year. And if you can overlook the issues in the game, there is a lot of enjoyment to be had. And even online, if you find the right group of people, it works well. So, I'm interested to know what you guys think. And one last thing, I will maybe in a week I'm going to do a wish list video. I'm going to get right on the next game. I think these guys deserve the benefit of the doubt. They did enough in this game to show that they're not Eutechnics. They're not some half-assed developer. They do deserve credit. And the issues I have with this game, they do piss me off a bit. But I think these guys can address these issues. But they have to focus on the right things. And that's what I'm going to try to help them do. The good news is, I have some really good news for 704. I have the formula for what is going to elevate this game to the next level. And it's going to be the best NASCAR game ever. But you have to listen to me. And when you guys check out the video, I think you'll agree and like the ideas. And the best part is, it's not going to be a list of 100 things. It's not going to be a list of complicated stuff. It's going to be pretty simple, good, condensed, a very doable wish list. And then together as a community, I want us to, continue to communicate with 704, because that's another thing. I have to give them some credit. They do seem to communicate with the fan base. So you got to give them some credit. And they are capable. They've shown enough for me to still have confidence in them. But, we got to push them in the right direction. One last thing. I talked about this in a previous video. And, again, I feel kind of validated. The Unity engine. A lot of people just keep on with this, Unity engine, it's terrible, it's the cause of everything. And I'm telling you guys, I really believe it's not the problem. It's not a bad engine. Is it the best? No. There are better game engines. But, first of all, this is a linear game. It's a static environment, right? There's not even dynamic weather. The only thing really that has to be focused on in terms of things that are changing and happening is the other cars you're racing against. Nothing else happens. The environment is static. So you don't need a sophisticated engine. And this game engine is okay. The problems that we've seen are on the developer. It's not the game engine. That's really how I feel about it. A better game engine isn't going to fix these issues. And these issues, we had better games way back. The games we're always talking about, Dirt to Daytona, and the old Thunder series. These games are almost 15 years old. What game engine were these games running on? They were on the PlayStation 2. So, you can't tell me this game engine is worse than that. And the issues plaguing these series of games, it's really just the developer dropping the ball. And we have to help them focus. So, you can disagree, and maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think the game engine's the problem. And this game is pretty static. It doesn't need a super sophisticated game engine. These CryEngine, Real, whatever. These are sophisticated engines that are used in open world games with a million things happening at once. Dynamic weather, all kinds of stuff. This game has none of that. It doesn't really need all of that. So let's focus on what can be fixed and not impossible stuff. Plus, they're not going to rebuild this game now, not anytime in the future. And in all honesty, this game shows a lot of potential and promise. They could keep building on it. And I don't see a problem with it. They just have to knuckle down and address the issues. So in a week, I'll make a wish list video. I'm sorry that, as always, these videos last longer than intended, but I really want to try to get my point across. I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. And it's a good game. It's decent. You know, it's not great, but it's a good, solid step forward. And we got to keep encouraging them and pushing them in the right direction. Um, so what do you guys think? And like I said, look for that video. It's coming in about a week. I don't want to wait too long because I want to make sure we start pushing these guys early because we don't know when they're going to start developing the next game. And I don't want to start doing a wish list video when they already have, you know, everything on the drawing board and they already started. And then, you know, I got the formula and these guys just need to listen. And hopefully when you guys see the video, you can agree on the ideas. If you like them, I want you to forward the video to these guys. And I want you in your own words to let them know you support these ideas so that they see that it's not just one guy with some ideas. They get ideas all the time. And sometimes they overwhelmed with all kinds of ideas. And this is why I tell you guys, be careful what you ask for. You ask for a split screen, you got it. But now you have other issues that couldn't be addressed because they're focused on certain things. You wanted more challenges. You got it. But these things, did they really add enough to the game to elevate it? I don't think so. You wanted all 3 series? You got it. If they would have just focused on the Cup Series and addressed these issues and added proper presentation and stats, I promise you this game would have been through the roof. Another thing I enjoyed about this game, and you know, I do these videos on the fly, but I do enjoy that the 3 series feel different. The trucks and the Xfinity feel way different from the Cup. They drive different. You can't just mash the throttle coming out of tight turns and like at Martinsville like you can with the trucks and even the Xfinity. So I appreciate that. There is a lot to like about this game. I just think the replay value for career mode isn't what I thought it would be, and it's damn sure not what 704 claimed it would be. And it's because of these issues that I've been talking about since 2012. So there it is. I look forward to your comments and look to the video. I will do a video possibly next weekend, a wish list video, and I want to get right on it. So I look forward to your comments once again. Thanks for watching.